So, the new season of Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman is started to be aired today. They dealt with the question: Is poverty genetics? The audaciousness of even asking that question. This is one. I have a clip of this from when Obama was talking crap about the Republicans, and he said what they were doing is thinly veiled social Darwinism. Ever since the kind Sir Mr. Barack Obama introduced me to the phrase social Darwinism, I have sunk my teeth into it, and I have never let go of it. I use it on as a tag in many of my videos. Um, I researched it and discovered that while it e- for the popular notion equates fascism as an element of social Darwinism. Um, one, one, the significance of Obama stating that as the president, the head of state of commander in chief and whatnot of the United States, the and in one real sense, the real top lawyer of the country, and that's a very criminal accusation to make. It's pretty much on the same criminal level as the way I have spoken about execution of public officials. Um, in in real reality, what he was accusing them of was treason, because social Darwinism does not exist, and he was applying it solely on a domestic scale. So social Darwinism does not exist without the intention to kill a particular prey or target. That is the intention. Social Darwinism denotes an intention. And what do they say in this country? The FBI Director Comey, who was appointed by Obama, in his speech to the New York board recently, and his crying about, oh, we're doing everything we can to stop terrorism. It's the biggest threat ever. Oh my gosh, it's so dangerous. What is it? Terrorists, according to national security reports, have killed, like, in the last 3 years, haven't even killed 100 American citizens. And I like to make this point: the domestic police, which are state agents, which are government officials, uh, they kill 75 American citizens every year with taser guns. That's not even getting into the race death rate, which in 2013 was an unarmed black citizen was killed, like, every, if I'm not mistaken, it was every 36 hours in the United States by police and George Zimmerman type of wannabe watch groups kind of stuff, or vigilantes. So the value on how a threat is perceived and what threats are addressed is significant. So, anyways, in the Morgan Freeman, in this the fact that they're asking this question, which is completely based on a social Darwinistic premise to start with. In one real sense, it's basically saying, um, we're so sincere about solving this problem that we're willing to ask the tough questions. No, you don't have to ask the tough questions. It's not a science project. It's not very difficult. You can resort back to Huey P. Long, and he seemed to, he wasn't a scientist, but the information that he provided the public, particularly in his speech called "Every Man a King," pretty much outlined it very clearly. And I will say that while I was watching it in my eager, ADD, agitated, easily flared up, poorly emotional controlled self, he was getting into the point about the top 9 million Americans own as much as the bottom 311 million Americans. And I would like to note that I cite regularly that the census of 2010 was 319 million Americans, and self-identified white, according to the census, is 272. That's from the records that I cite on a regular basis, from my research. And the math that he's using lines up with the math that I'm using. He's 9 million plus 11, 311 million is 320 million. So we're right on the same par, okay? And this is a very important point because it's impossible for the black community to equate to 16% of the population. It's a mathematical impossibility. With the other statistic that Mexicans are going to be 50% of the population by 2050. That means that either a lot of white people are going to die, which is probably one of the influences. I don't know, influence isn't the right word, but I mean I don't want to say subliminal, but I'm using it because there's an influx, some kind of word like that. Inference, inferring that this white threat, or it's being interpreted by people like these hardcore religious right-wing fascist groups. The whole thing is fascist, but that Pat Robertson, who promotes this notion, and he uses this because when they say that, then the flip side is the way that they foment massive fear and a murderous fear is by then taking it to the European Union and saying, oh, Muslims, because they have a higher birth rate, are going to take over Europe basically use the same statistic, but they say it in a justification for violence and war against Muslims, with a premise basically on race more than religion, on one sense, but equally religion. And fascism is the willingness to kill for religious beliefs. But what he was saying that his statistic is disingenuous, and it was pissing me off to hear him say that that there are 9 million Americans own as much wealth as 311 million Americans. Because Huey P. Long, he was a lot more specific. Granted, he was killed for how specific he got, and there's no question about it. Huey P. Long mentioned names. He didn't just give some out there roundabout number, despite the fact that he mentioned 4 Americans, and he mentioned names: Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and I don't remember who the other one was. But by mentioning names, he equated at that time those people owned more wealth than, if I'm not mistaken, the number he cited was, I'm just going to be safe, want to say 200 million, but I'm going to be safe and say 100 million. So for sure, I could look it up, but I use this phone, and I don't want to grab my other phone right now. And time is flying by. So when Morgan Freeman citing this thing, I was getting really pissed off because I have a video on my YouTube that's a clip from a speech that was given February 26th at Stanford University by Christine Lagarde, the former French finance minister, you might have seen in the movie Inside Job. She's the lady with gray hair, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, I knew this was coming." Well, she replaced the last French-born IMF chief who was kicked out because of the rape allegations of an African hotel worker, and he was kicked out. He was also thinking about running for president of France, and he lost all that under the allegations. Not supporting her or anything like that, but she replaced him people thought for a second that South America, somebody from South America was going to be nominated, which would have made it the first non-European IMF chief, but that was not done. But they gave him a pope, so maybe that's the trade-off. Keep South Americans shut up, because if they ever actually don't want to be fascist, then there's going to be a real problem. As long as they're cooperative on a fascist scale, like all this stuff in Brazil, putting some kind of the way that they look to greater first world white societies over the well-being, and then trying to say, oh no, but it's going to generate business in the long term. So, but she stated in her speech that the top 85 people, and she emphasizes individual persons, own more wealth than the lower half of the population. She says that's about 3 billion. So I was getting pissed off, and I was going to actually record Morgan Freeman's clip and then combine it on YouTube Capture with the clip that I have from her speech saying that. But he ended it by that statistic, and I was satisfied. I was very satisfied that at least that got out there, because trying to publicize, I mean, I get it. This is it. This is the extent. The 98% of my videos have two views maybe, and it's probably people that accidentally clicked on it. Uh, so, but so beyond that sphere of influence of informativeness, um, packaged better. I've already been through this. People's willingness to sponge, to absorb or accept or listen or consider the information I put forward is not a reflection of me and how I present it. I don't give a rat's ass. People's, I have a very not positive view of the sources that I get this from, but you know what? I dig deep. I watch Kenneth Copeland's sermons and stuff, like, even though they're disgusting, and his wife is telling the poor idiotic congregation the story of how they prayed to God and signed a contract with God, making a deal that they were going to have faith that he got them a jet. And they're like, oh, you might think that a jet, some people might think that taking out a loan is easier and then paying it off in the long run. She's like, and it does take more work praying to God, but I think in the end, using faith to get the jet is quicker than paying it off in the sum. So this is what she's telling to us. These fucking people, man. And they're clapping, going, oh yeah, they're gonna get all jets. So pretty soon you're gonna know Kenneth Copeland's congregation when the parking lot is full of airplanes and helicopters. But anyways, I dig deep. I go through sources. I look for stuff. American rhetoric, I use it on a regular basis. What IMF, though, I pulled her speech. The FBI, go to the FBI's website and look at their speeches. I mean, I dig deep. So I don't have to package my shit any particular way. But I was trying. It's a delusional concept. The internet is big, and it's easy to grandiose my own self and think that what I've got to say is important enough for people to listen, and that's a typical. I've already demonstrated that my emotional grasp is not any better than yours. So antsy, eager, what do you call it? Agitated. That's normal shit. But what I have been trying to do is I regularly watch the Max Kaiser show, or the Kaiser Report, with Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert. And I've repeatedly tried to encourage